The roll, and let's establish a quorum.
Senator Wolk,
Here,
Senator Nielsen, Senator Pavley.
we have a quorum. I will proceed first to the vote-only calendar, and that is obviously on page 1. We have a number of items. I'm going to ask for a motion on all the vote-only issues with the following exceptions. 2660, Issue 4, 2720, Issue 2, and 2740, Issue 1. Welcome, Senator Nielsen. I was just separating out the items.
Could you say that one more time?
Sure. On the vote-only items, I will take a motion on all the issues with the exception of 2660, Issue 4, 2720, Issue 2, and 2740, Issue 1, reappropriation of bond funds, capital outlay, and capital outlay. We will go through those separately. So I need a motion on all of the other items.
So moved.
All right, and I'm going to read them. The amendment to and addition of the various budget bill items for the CTC, Department of Transportation, technical adjustments as per the May revision. Issue 2, the lease revenue bond financing as per the May revision. District 7, express lane maintenance as per the May revise. We are skipping Issue 4 for the moment. Issue 5, the federal bridge load rating as per the May revise. Going to the Board of Pilot Commissioners, increased operation and training costs. Department of the Highway Patrol, the enhanced radio system, replaced towers, vaults, and technical adjustment to the budget bill language. We are skipping Issue 2 on page 7 for the moment. We're going to skip Issue 1 for the Department DMV on page 9 for the moment. Issue 2, the Real ID implementation, previously heard on April 14th, and I believe that is it. So I will take a motion on those items.
I did.
Oh, you did. Yes, thank you, Senator Pavley. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolk,
Aye.
Senator Nielsen, Senator Pavley.
All right. All those items are supported, 3-0. Let's go first to 2660, item 4, which is on page 4. This is the reappropriation of bond funds. Do I have a motion?
I can do that.
All right, it's been moved by Senator Pavley. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolk,
Aye.
Senator Nielsen, Senator Pavley.
All right, that is approved 2 to 1. Let's go to 2720, Issue 2, which is on page 7. Capital outlay, advanced planning and site selection, and area office replacements. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Senator Pavley. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolk,
Aye.
Senator Nielsen, Senator Pavley.
Aye.
All right, approved 2 to 1. Let's go to 2740, Issue 1, which is on page 9, the capital outlay field office replacements. May I have a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Senator Pavley. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolk,
Aye.
Senator Nielsen, Senator Pavley.
Aye.
All right, that is supported 2 to 1. All right, let's go to discussion and vote discussion issues. Let's start with Caltrans, Department of Transportation. Before we go any further, let me just say that it is the recommendation that we reject this funding plan without prejudice. We want to send this to the special session. We have a special session on transportation, and that's where we believe that action should and is taking place. So with that in mind, I'll take very brief comments.
Good
That
morning.
applies to the audience as well. Yes, welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. Russia Chavez, California State Transportation Agency. Understanding that you have a motion to reject this, we'll go briefly.
Do indeed.
As
Without
you know,
prejudice.
pardon?
Without prejudice.
Without prejudice.
We all love transportation.
Sending it to another
Sending it to,
As you know, we're going to just put this into brief context. So this is substantially the same proposal the administration presented last fall. A little bit. It was developed after a meeting and listening to all 4 caucuses on which was deemed important for formulating lasting funding transportation in the state. We focused major on some key core principles. The first core principle was focusing on fix-it-first priorities to target new revenues on the acute state and local deferred maintenance problem in the state. The second was to make investments in targeted areas to ensure California's long-term competitiveness. To continue the state and local partnerships, to adopt specific performance metrics to ensure that the reporting requirements could be made to all policymakers, and to hold the department accountable on performance to ensure that they were meeting those targets. We didn't want to impact the precariously balanced general fund. And finally, we wanted to ensure that transportation revenues were dedicated solely to transportation for transportation purposes. As noted, the balance of our proposal is weighted between reforms and new transportation funding. We would note that since 2012, 21 other states have enacted transportation funding plans for investments. These states are governed by Republicans and Democrats alike and are all shades of red, blue, and purple. Just as those states have acted to improve their transportation system, we believe that it's time for California to improve its state and local transportation assets as well. In short, our transportation infrastructure must be fixed, and as new revenues is necessary to do that. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to open this up for public comment, bearing in mind that the recommendation is to reject and to send to the transportation special session where there's action going on. So I will entertain short public comment. Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Kiana Valentine on behalf of the California State Association of Counties, also a member of the Fix Our Roads Coalition that represents over 80 organizations, business, labor, transportation, local governments, regional governments. We recognize the staff recommendation before you today. Yes, the special session is an opportunity that is still open to discuss transportation reforms and funding. However, there hasn't been any official movement as of late within the special session, so our organization and the Fix Our Roads Coalition has always viewed the budget as an alternative pathway in which to continue those negotiations to find a bipartisan compromise reform and funding package. So we are here asking you today to hold the item open within budget so that we can have as many opportunities to negotiate a final package as possible, and respectfully request your consideration of that.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Hi, Ronnie with the League of California Cities. Just wanting to echo all the comments. We're also part of the Fix Our Roads Coalition, and we agree that we think that we need to keep all of our options open. There hasn't been a lot of movement as of yet, and we feel like we need something to get done this year. The unmet funding need for local streets and roads is $78 billion, and that grows by $20 billion in just another 10 years. So we really think something needs to happen this year, and want to keep all options open. Thank you.
Next, please.
Orville Thomas from the California Alliance for Jobs, also a member of the Fix Our Roads Coalition. We'd like to echo the comments said before about keeping the discussion open as we look for significant investment in infrastructure and transportation. It also supports the economy through job creation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Member Steve Baker with Aaron Reed and Associates, representing the professional engineers in California government. While we recognize there is a need for additional transportation revenue, we're regrettably opposed to the governor's plan. It includes a 20% mandate on outsourcing engineering work, which we're opposed to, and it has private consortium inspecting their own work on P3s, which we think is inappropriate. Thank you.
Next, please.
Bill Higgins on behalf of the Regional Transportation Planning Agencies and MPOs in the state, supporting the League and CSAC's request to hold this item open.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Keith Dunn on behalf of the Self-Help Counties Coalition, the organizations that put dollars from sales tax to local infrastructure projects. It's critical that we have a well-funded state and federal partner in our pursuit of building these projects, and we'd also request that you leave this item open. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, the recommendation is that we reject the governor's transportation funding plan without prejudice to send it to, hopefully, to an active special session on transportation. Is there a motion? All right, it's been moved by Senator Pavley. All right, we will take the vote.
Senator Wolk?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen? Senator Pavley?
All right, that is supported 3-0. All right, moving on to issue number 2 and the capital outlay support budget. All right.
Madam Chair, members, co-mayor said for Caltrans. Caltrans request, the Caltrans request has 2 components to it. There's a baseline adjustment as well as resources for the governor's transportation funding package. Based on the previous actions, we will focus on the adjustment to the baseline budget. Our request is a decrease of 94 full-time equivalents and a net increase of $32.5 million for the Capital Outlay Support Program, the COS program, from the governor's proposed, which is part of the governor's proposed budget. This request includes an increase in personal services dollars to fully fund existing COS positions. This request is an addition to the reduction of 97 FTEs included in the 16-17 proposed budget for a total of 191 FTE reduction from the fiscal year 15-16 budget. The total resources requested will fund over 2,900 projects that support over $41 billion in multi-year capital outlay pipeline of projects. This will be an estimated 784 ongoing construction contracts for a capital value of approximately $8.85 billion at the beginning of the fiscal year. With this proposal, the COS staffing will be at its lowest since fiscal year 97-98, which is 19 years ago. The program will have reduced staffing by approximately 3,600 FTEs that's over 27% over the last 9 years since its peak staffing levels in 2007, 2008, and thus aligning with current transportation funding. In addition, the Transportation Agency Secretary requested that the California Transportation Commission lead a team effort that includes the legislative staff, the LAO, the Department of Finance, and Caltrans to review the COS program budget development process in order to gain consensus on a reasonable methodology for developing for the budget development process. As your staff states in the recommendation, the LAO and the department have reached agreement on revised budget bill language. The resources contained in this request are crucial components in the delivery of transportation projects that ensure the continued vitality of California's economy and livability, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from the LAO. Jessica.
Jessica Peters with the Analyst's Office. The governor's proposal for the Capital Outlay Support Program includes 3 components: an augmentation related to the governor's transportation funding package, which is the issue you just heard in the previous item, the baseline request as described by Mr. Ajise, as well as some provisional language. We would indicate that the augmentation related to the governor's funding package is premature. The legislature hasn't approved a funding package, and you're going to want to align any resources that are provided with an increase in workload to the actual funding package that's approved. In addition, we find that it's unlikely, even if a funding package was approved, that a significant increase in workload would occur in 16-17 just due to the timing of when funding would come online and the timing of when the workload would occur. If the legislature intends to approve a funding package for transportation, we would recommend approving the baseline COS request. The department, as has been indicated, has brought down the staffing levels of this program in recent years due to a reduction in workload. We find that they would still be overstaffed in 16-17 if workload is not increased. However, if the legislature is intending to increase funding for transportation, this would provide new workload for this program, and you would want to have Caltrans maintain those staff as they would be available to handle that increase in workload. And in the future, if a funding increase for transportation is not approved, we think that you would likely need to revisit the size of this program at a future date. Also, with respect to the provisional language, we have worked with administration, and the revised language as reflected in your agenda, we feel would meet the intent of what the administration is trying to do while not providing too broad of an authority.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we have a request to separate the items before we move to action. Oh, yes, Senator Nielsen.
Yes, I did.
Of course.
Separate the capital outlay support and the budget bill language items.
Yes.
Couple of questions, Madam Chair, if I may.
Sure.
The capital outlay support request here, I'm trying to make sense of the math. There's a reduction of 94 positions, but an increase of $32.5 million. Is that right?
That's correct.
How does that compute? So you're reducing positions, but you're increasing the budget dollars.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's a reduction in number of positions. The increase in dollars is really to fully fund the existing positions. The positions were not fully funded. So this is an attempt to fully fund and true up what it really costs for those positions.
So the 94 positions is a net. And you're requesting 151 positions, a reduction of 19.2 million. And we did some math that's 127,000 per position. Then our computations were that these positions were funded at $133,000 and a cost of $141,000. The budget was based, a zero-based budgeted 2 years ago. Presumably, at that time, the positions were sufficiently funded. So what's happened in between? The math doesn't compute some way. What are we missing?
Jim Davis with the Capital Outlay Support Program with Caltrans. So currently, our budgeted FTEs for personal service dollars are $133,000, and we're expending at $141,000. I'll take complete ownership of that as we have decreased over 3,600 FTEs over the last 9 years. We assumed a number of different classifications that will be reduced. What is happening is the people that are attriting or leaving are different than what we assumed, and so that has created this wide variance in our...
What do you mean the people are different? I mean, how are they different? There's more money? They cost more? How are they different?
So in our budget process, we either do a net increase or a net decrease from the base each year. And so when we, in the last 9 years, we have decreased, and so we have to assume what is going to decrease in our budget, and we assume by classification. 57% of our program are engineers, and so we assume a large portion of those engineers are going to decrease, and they get paid a lot higher salary. What has happened is those engineers haven't been leaving. Other classifications have, and so it's created a discrepancy between...
So you're higher paid or staying, and that's what's bumping it up. I see. Okay. Let me get into another, you know, the reason these questions are important, they're kind of minor, but they're not. When you multiply that in the thousands of cases throughout our state budget, it's not hard to figure out why our budgets get out of control and kind of grow on autopilot. And that's why I'm glad to see the Senate doing such a better job of oversight and digging into the small little items so we understand how. And I'm going to get into some more of that in just a little bit. I'd like to talk about the issue of, it's come to my attention in some of our counties, the borehole issue. 33 positions for borehole mitigation. What is the boreholing for? Are you boring down to test substrata, soil profiling, and if so, for what purpose? Why do we need to do all this boring? Are we having bridge abutments setting in, or why are we doing all this boring in our counties?
I think those are excellent questions, by the way, sir. The issue of boreholes is an important one to us because we need to find out what's in the ground before you plant a foundation on a project. And typically where you have structures like bridges, you really want to make sure you know exactly what kind of conditions are under the ground. And so we do drillings into the ground to find out what the nature of the soil is, what the nature of the rock content is, and that would then apply to what kind of solutions or what kinds of ways you need to make sure that the structure is well planted. So that's why we do boreholes.
Are the counties notified in advance of these borings?
Typically, they're not notified in advance, but what I think the issue you're referring to is the one about how this could be an impact on groundwater, and we've taken that very seriously over the last few years. I think the real issue there is when we do boreholes, we want to make sure that we're doing in compliance with local county requirements and ordinances that meets the right.
You, but nobody else knows about it but you. So who determines if you comply or not? There's nobody to account. You just bore a hole. Who oversees whether or not you comply with the county?
Well, the counties can oversee what we do, and we do report to them, and we're working
So before you bore, you notify the county, you know, at these coordinates, we're going to bore a hole for the purpose of this possible bridge. Is that correct?
We would do that, exactly.
And you'd have to do an EIR like most other people would have to do?
We always do environmental document. It doesn't necessarily have to be an EIR, but there is an environmental document that goes with every project that we do.
All right, and then do you have to test in the holes? You test the soil?
Yeah.
And who gets the results of the testing?
Our geotechnical unit and our engineers would look at the materials that come out of there. We have a whole lab that's set up to take care of the testing.
And then do you have to report the results of those tests to anybody?
Well, the results of the tests really go into the design of the project. The issue with the boreholes is we work with the local enforcement agencies, typically the environmental units of the counties, on the nature of the borehole and how we're making sure that it doesn't contaminate groundwater.
Okay. And so then if there is a contamination issue, then how do you mitigate? How do you affect mitigation?
It depends on the specific type of violation, then we'll deal with the local agency.
And how do you seal the holes? Are they all sealed, or do they have to be sealed after you close up? Do you have to seal them?
They have to be sealed.
And then is there a notification?
Yes, there is a notification.
Okay. So, and do you have any kind of a long-range plan of these borings? Is there a 5-year plan or something of the boring schedule, shall I say?
Yes.
Okay. And you submit that to who?
We have a 5-year plan. It's an internal plan, but it's available for review.
So anybody in the public could access this plan?
Absolutely.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And when you have a contamination, just a curiosity, what sort of mitigation generally would you implement if there was some kind of contamination in a bore before you proceeded then to put in your foundation and such? What kind of mitigation measures do you take?
If there was any findings of contamination, we would work with the local environmental agency to deal with the specific condition and work with them to come up with the appropriate solutions.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Senator, any more comments on this issue? What I'm going to do is, at the request of Senator Nielsen, we will separate out the two items. And before I do that, I need to hear public comment. Welcome.
Thank you, Mrs. Chairwoman and committee members. I just wanted to commend the department, the LAO and DOF and others on this issue. Putting together a COS staff need basis is critically important to our local partners in delivering our projects. It's tough to do on an out-year basis. I think that there's been a lot of hard work done by all parties, and we just want to publicly thank them for that. Getting those numbers right are always tricky, but it's critically important in how we deliver our projects to make sure that we have a department that can meet our needs. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Further comment? All right, I will take a motion on the following. That the committee approve the baseline capital outlay support request of a net increase of $32.5 million and a decrease of 94 full-time FTE positions.
So moved.
It has been moved by Senator Pavley. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolk?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen?
No.
Senator Pavley?
All right, that passes 2-1. And now the second part of the motion has to do with the budget bill language 17 and 18 on page 15. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
It has been moved by Senator Pavley. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolk?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen?
Aye.
Senator Pavley?
All right, that is approved 3-0. All right, let's move on to issue number 3, which is construction and maintenance zone enforcement funding. All right, the concern here is the shifting of the funds, which we do not like. You're up.
Yes, ma'am. Again, the department works with Federal Highway, with this California Highway Patrol agency to provide safety for our workers and contractors and the traveling public when there is a construction or maintenance activity going on in the state highway system. This is a very important element of what we do, providing safety for all users of the road and including the workers. And these two programs actually are very instrumental in providing those services. The CHP provides the services to ensure that motorists are aware of the road activity as well as provide enforcement to correct any dangerous driving behaviors near the work zones. The department will continue to work with CHP to ensure the services are provided regardless of how the program is funded. Both the COZIP and the MAZIP, the construction zone and enhanced enforcement and the maintenance zone enhanced enforcement are very important to us. We include the COZIP, we include that in the project planning process, and so we have a sense of what we're doing there. In the case of the MAZIP, we also have some planned work that we have with CHP, but some of that resources is really set aside for incidental and emergency response activities.
All right, thank you. I'd like to hear from the LAO on this issue.
Jessica Peters with the Analyst's Office. The issue, as has been described, is really just a shifting in the funding source for these construction site safety enforcement programs. We would recommend rejecting the proposal to shift the $50 million in costs from Caltrans to CHP. And the primary reason is that the cost for providing these services would no longer be linked with the decision-making of when to use the service. Currently, Caltrans pays for these services related to their projects and makes a decision when to use them. And so if you shift the funding for them, then Caltrans would still make the decision of when the enforcement is needed, but would no longer have the fiscal incentive to only do that when is absolutely necessary. And so we would recommend rejecting it. We also find that it could be difficult for the department to fully account for the costs on its projects by shifting part of the cost of its projects into CHP's budget.
All right, thank you. So the recommendation is to reject the governor's proposal. By no means are we rejecting the importance of the safety issues for the reasons that you described, Jessica. So public comment on this issue? Please come forward. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Aaron Reed, representing the California Association of Highway Patrolmen. I couldn't have said it better. We agree with the LAO and with your committee consultants' analysis, and we urge your rejection. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment? Is there a motion? All right. Senator Pavley has moved to reject the governor's proposal. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolk?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen?
Aye.
Senator Pavley?
3-0. That is rejected. Issue number 4, Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act federal grants.
Yes, Madam Chair, the governor's May revision proposes
That's right.
proposes 2 actions related to the federal freight funding program included in the 5-year Surface Transportation Act known as the FAST Act. The FAST Act includes 2 freight programs. The first one is a competitive program known as the Fast Lane Program, which with projects submitted by states and local agencies and projects selected by the federal government. And the attachment to the finance letter should have some listing of applications that have been submitted from California. That's not by any means all of the applications, just some of them are included in that list. The federal project selection process is still pending, and we're looking forward to being successful. The finance letter requests budget bill language to allow the state to make the required match if needed for the projects or projects the federal government selects. And so we don't know what they're going to select, but once they select them, we want to be able to make sure that we have the required match. The second program is a formula program that would award California about $582 million over the next 5 years. The governor's budget proposes in trailer bill language to use a successful Trade Corridor Investment Fund Prop 1B program to manage these funds. The program funded important freight infrastructure projects that both improved the economic competitiveness of California's freight sector and improved air quality. In 2014, the legislature also passed a bill, SB 1228, that continued the TCIF program funding process. The proposal is consistent with the legislature's direction in SB 1228. The proposal adds a few new components. One, the state and regions would both select projects for programming, 50% by the state, 50% by the regions, to ensure projects of both regional significance and statewide significance are selected. Secondly, the program guidelines modeled on the TCIF program would also be updated to be consistent with the Sustainable Freight Action Plan, which the administration is currently developing, intending to improve the economic competitiveness of freight, as well as improve the efficiency of freight and improve air quality. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. I want to hear from the LAO. Thank you.
With regard to the budget bill language, we didn't have any issues. That just seems to be necessary for the administration to the extent that Caltrans is successful in competing for some of these competitive fast lane grants. With regard to the trailer bill, I think it seems to us to be more the creation of a new program as opposed to putting funding into the existing TCIF program. In particular, the governor's proposal includes several significant policy considerations in terms of the allocation of funding, creating a different allocation and a different allocation process than was used in the previous Proposition 1B program. As well as several other really significant policy decisions and policy considerations in the trailer bill. We just find that this would be more appropriate for the legislature to consider through the policy process. It likely makes sense to create a new freight-focused program in order to use these ongoing federal formula funds. This is something that the legislature is probably going to want to take more time considering through that policy process to really weigh the merits of the governor's proposal as well as legislative priorities.
All right, thank you for that explanation and comment. Is there public comment on this item? All right, seeing none. The recommendation is to, frankly, we agree with the LAO, to recommend the approval of the proposed budget bill language and rejection of the trailer bill language so that it can be considered through the policy process. Several of us have been involved in constructing bonds, and I agree with the LAO that if there are fundamental changes to the nature of what has gone before, it really does need to come out in a policy bill. All right, so that is the motion. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll move.
Senator Nielsen moves that item. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolf?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen?
Aye.
Senator Pavley?
Aye.
All right, 3-0, 3-0, that is supported. All right, we're moving on to the Highway Patrol. We have one issue, and that is commercial vehicle federal conformity requirements.